all of his creations, good or evil or whatever, have escaped. Like
Yeah.
the Corinthian and things like that have all
By the
escaped.
way, I love the new Corinthian.
Yeah, it was great.
Bringing him back, he was fantastic.
I was like, you're bringing him back. How's that going to work?
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures all.
I know we're a little bit late with the Sandman because I have been away in the UK. It's holiday time. And, since we're getting into nerd culture, let me just share with you. You're familiar with Forbidden Planet in London, right?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
I always make my trek there, and I always try to get something. And disappointingly, I'm finding over the years, I'm increasingly, because of my age, I think I'm out of touch with what is in. I remember in the early days going to London, going to Forbidden Planet, there'd be a huge section of Star Wars and Star Trek and these, even Firefly and Doctor Who would have just a huge, enormous section. And now half the store is given over to those Funko heads and manga. And I got to go into this little corner to find anything that I'm interested in. But I found one thing that I am interested. I had to get. I should have probably wore it, but
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Good.
And my,
Good.
my brother agreed with me that what makes this good is there's nothing, I mean, other than the tag, which I'm going to remove, there's nothing indicating alien in it.
Yeah.
What makes it true nerd fashion and the building better worlds sold me. When I got to that last line, I bought it. But we deviate. We go off tangent. The Sandman. I have been dying for season 2 to come out, and it dropped while I was on vacation. So I've watched it through twice now. My initial run was while I was hiking across the UK. So I'd get up in the morning early, watch an episode, walk 20 miles, come to a pub, maybe watch a second episode that evening, and so I worked through season 2, section 1 that way.
Okay.
Then part 2 of season 2 dropped about 3 hours before I got on a 14-hour flight from London back to Hong Kong. Downloaded everything from Netflix onto my portable and watched it on the flight back. So and then obviously the final little episode dropped a day or two ago.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
And yeah. And so I'm all caught up. I'm ready to talk Sandman season 2.
Wonderful. Okay, yeah. I mean, I watched it sort of in bits as it was coming out, actually ahead of it coming out because I had to write some stuff about it, so I had the screeners. But yeah, I think the first thing to say is to kind of light a candle for it a little bit and say, unfortunately, it's the second season and it's also the final season of it. Is that we knew for quite a while that Netflix had decided to cancel the show. And I don't know whether it was in any way sort of financially motivated, but it was definitely at least in part motivated by all the allegations that have surfaced in recent months against Neil Gaiman, creator of the show and executive producer of the show, and what heavily involved in actually this adaptation of it. And we're not going to get into those, but there is sort of no small degree of irony, I think, in the fact that this is a beloved property of his that was first published in the 80s and 90s that they've been trying to adapt either into a movie or a TV show for decades and decades and decades. It eventually seemed like the Netflix long form series was the perfect sort of model for it, because episodes can be whatever length you want them to be. There can be as many episodes as they want. And it doesn't matter. You can deviate off and do all of those sort of digressions and tangents that the story does. And no one would really care in the same way as if it was like a network TV show or a film. And once it's finally up and running, it's Gaiman himself who inadvertently gets the whole thing sort of shit-canned prematurely, which is, ironic, frustrating, and just sad, because what it means is you had that first season and they're like, okay, they're basically working on the first 16, 20 episodes, the first couple of volumes of it. And then season 2 is just tears through about sort of 50 or 60 issues of the original comic book run, cherry picking only the bits that really, really matter, and leaving so much of it sort of on the floor, as it were, that probably now we're never going to see unless enough time passes and enough dust settles and Netflix hangs on to the rights maybe, and every now and again does something a bit like that final bonus episode, because that's not even actually, I think, in the Sandman run at all, is it? I
Hmm.
think that's a Death spin-off
Yeah.
sort of mini series, if you like. That, as far as I could work out, has never been sort of included in any of the Sandman omnibuses
Hmm.
or anything like that. So who knows? Maybe time will pass and things will happen and they'll keep picking
Yeah,
away at it. But I don't know.
I can't help but think that there's so many stories left to tell in this world. It is such a rich, layered,
Mm,
textured world. Even the final episode you mentioned doesn't even feature Sandman. It's in the world of Sandman.
mm.
There are so many possibilities that are provided in this world to the point where we've even seen Morpheus die. And we have almost in a Doctor Who form, basically a new dream who is kind of the old one, but
Yeah.
new, which being a Doctor Who fan, I'm very familiar with that concept. And I mean, it's as hard as it was to watch Tom Sturridge go because he, for me, personified Dream. No pun intended. He is the personification of Dream. And like yourself, as I'm watching season two, I'm enjoying it so much. I mean, I really enjoy both seasons.
Mm.
All I kept thinking is, you bastard Gaiman, because of your frolicking, you've ended this great show. Not only this, but obviously also Michael Sheen and David Tennant's Good Omens. It's also being canceled because it is Gaiman related.
Hmm.
But I can't help but think, dollars talk. People can be moved and sidelined. There's no reason why this story can't continue if Netflix has the rights to it. Because as you mentioned, season two, we got basically, I still loved it, but it felt choppy at times. I wanted to stay in this scene or this story arc a little bit longer to flesh it out a little deeper. I mean, it was already well done, but you sense as you mentioned this sense of urgency to get on and get this accomplished in something that can be presented with a bow at the end, so that we can at least have a season one and two that people can watch from beginning to end and have a story arc that is relatable.
Yeah, I think in that regard, I think sort of somewhat ironically as well, I kind of appreciated season two more than season one
Hmm.
because season one kind of had that sense of had a lack of urgency, had that sort of sense of, we can take our time with this. This is what the show is going to be. It is going to kind of
Hmm.
meander. It is going to digress. It's going to be all the things that have put people off from adapting it for so long. The
Hmm.
fact that it is so sort of non-linear and just easily
On
distracted by other characters and other stories along the way. And whereas season two, they didn't have that luxury anymore. They had to sort of strip away everything else and go, okay, what are the major beats in Morpheus's story?
Mhm.
If we're going to finish it, he has to die at the end and be
Right.
regenerated, as you said, Doctor Who style. We need to get there. And so what are the major beats? And really, the thing they had to go straight to was the Orpheus thing. They had to go straight to, like,
Yeah.
okay, he has to go to the underworld looking for his son and then kill his son, because if he doesn't do that, then there isn't going to be this sort of death
Right.
sentence
Right.
hanging over his head. And they were like, okay, well, we can do that in 10 episodes and cover a few of the other major things, him going to hell to find, is it Nada, his
Yeah.
bride from the first
Yeah.
tribe, and go looking for his brother Destruction, with Delirium,
Yeah.
and story beats like that. So in a way, I kind of liked it. I liked the focus that
Yeah.
that was imposed upon it this time round. And so
Okay.
it kind of sort of kept my attention a little bit better, because the first one I was kind of like, yeah, it's okay, but I think it was also like, coming into the second season, you had a better understanding of the focus and the style and the limitations of what this adaptation was going to be in terms
Yeah.
of casting and how they were going to just manifest this world and all the rest of it. When it began with season one, you were like, okay, they could really go anywhere in so many directions, and it was so kind of like sort of limitless in
Yeah.
its possibilities. And so the first season was, I think, a little bit kind of jarring because you're like, oh, okay, you've made these hard choices, and some of them weren't as satisfying as others. But when you get to season two, you're like, okay, all of that has happened already, and so I know
Right,
what it's
right.
going to be like in terms of the scale of it and the casting of it and those kind of things. And so I was able just to appreciate the
Yeah.
dramatic propulsiveness of it, I suppose.
See, and the thing is, if they continued, I want Tom Sturridge as Dream. No disrespect to the new guy coming in. And maybe this is a Doctor Who thing. Everybody thinks I can't accept the new Doctor Who. I love this Doctor Who. And within time you begin to love the new Doctor Who. And maybe that would be the case. But I just felt that Tom Sturridge just such a wonderful job. And the development of the character, I mean, this is some of the there's probably some of the logic plot holes in the whole show is like suddenly after 10,000 years he starts growing a conscience. Like why now? Like why not 5,000 years ago? Why not,
Hmm.
there is a feeling of why all of a sudden you are developing this sense of empathy and areas that of the natural growth that people exhibit. And when you start to see a god, small g,
Mm,
developing like a human, learning the things that you're supposed to learn after you come through puberty. You
mm,
know, your selfishness and you're seeing everything in these black and white. You know, the whole world is us and them and good and evil and in and out. And I'll never forgive you. I would never. Oh, well, oh, maybe I should say I'm sorry. You know, these are the kind of things that humans, as hopefully as they develop, uh, you hope to see happen in people, and then watching them happen and dream in this God. It was fun to be a fly on the wall watching that development. My whole thing, I think one of the reasons I kept asking myself, why do I love this show so much? Like, why do I want to even keep rewatching episodes? Because I think in the back of my mind, there's almost a hope that this is kind of the way it is in reality. Like I'm hoping there's some kind of Tolkien was a big believer in this. J.R.R. Tolkien, the Middle Earth had that concept of he had a very Christian concept of yeah, there is a creator. There at the very top of the hierarchy, there is one who sets everything. But under that, because he's so secure, there's a lot of delegation. There's a lot of, hey, here's room for you to grow and make mistakes, and this is your realm, and this is your sphere of influence, and this is your area to develop. And as humans, isn't that what we enjoy? Why do we love games like Civilization, where you start on a little square and I've got to develop, I've got to grow, I've got to flourish, I have to create situations in which my human flourishing relationships develop. And so when I watch a show like this and I'm watching it on the macro level, where there's these principalities and powers and dominions operating in their spheres of influence, I just love it. When Dream says, to the demon who he captures in the little bottle, you tried to do this in my realm where I am at my most powerful, where I can like, I can't do this everywhere, but here I am God. And you tried to do this in my house? I mean, I
mm.
got chills when he did. I was like, yes, that is. And so this is why I developed this love-hate thing with Gaiman, because to me, he understands some of these primal responses that humans have. He wrote a couple of the best Doctor Who episodes ever. He wrote The Doctor's Wife, where the TARDIS takes on the personification of a woman, which is not unlike what we see in Sandman, where this primal force, like the TARDIS, manifests in this one episode as a female. And so the TARDIS is interacting as a woman with the Doctor. And it is one of the best episodes. It's recognized by many Doctor Who fans, one of the best episodes. And so Gaiman does have this really incredible ability to tap these primal responses I feel that humans have to this kind of otherworldly reality. And he did so with me.
Yeah, no, he is kind of like unique in that regard, is that he does have this great ability to, he's obviously incredibly intelligent, incredibly well educated and well read, and can draw from all of these, stories and
Hmm.
mythologies and religions and what have you, and intertwine them in a way that is, endlessly sort of innovative, but also influential and invigorating. And then create these characters, and also he's so good at creating sort of um, or what's the word? Putting on the front lines, characters who are sort of non-binary and
Yeah.
androgynous and all of these kind of things. And so it is even more frustrating that he's such a dirty old shitbag
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
most archaically mundane way
Yeah.
imaginable. It's like, oh, okay, you're just abusing your babysitters or whatever it is. It's like, how
Yeah.
boring,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
ordinary. But going back to what you're saying is like, why did Dream do this now? I think it's because it begins with him being knocked off his perch, basically.
Hmm.
He has had sort of free reign and dominion over his realm for time eternal or whatever, and then the story starts that he's been imprisoned by an occultist for 100
Yeah.
years, right? Who were trying to summon death, but accidentally kind of got him instead, and
Hmm.
so he has had all of this time sort of in prison to contemplate who he is and what his role is, and have all of that stripped away from him. And then when he escapes, he finds that the dreaming has been destroyed, and so
Hmm.
all of his creations, good or evil or whatever, have escaped. Like
Yeah.
the Corinthian and things like that have all
By the way,
escaped.
I love the new Corinthian.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Bringing
great.
him back, he was fantastic.
I was like, "You're bringing him back. How's that going to work?" Because I hadn't got that
Yeah.
far into the comic book actually, because I haven't read all of the comic book. I was kind of trying to read it sort of just ahead, and so I'd read like the second
Hmm.
part because they republished it for Netflix, in coordination with Netflix in like 4 big volumes. So I'd read the second part in anticipation of season 2, only to discover very quickly that I'd run out of material. It's like, hey, where are you going with this? So I think it does make sense that he has a change of, or that he has the opportunity to have a change of heart. His perspective is completely upended by this idea that he is not all powerful. He can
Yeah.
have it all taken away from him. His world can be reduced to rubble. And when he has the opportunity to put it all back together again, okay, he's going to make some changes, and his siblings rally around him and just be like, you know what, you should really take this moment to
Reflect.
to reflect, and yeah, so no, that side of it sort of totally made sense to me. And that's the question, why now? Is, well,
Yeah.
that's why now,
Yeah.
because because he's been forced into this humble position where he can do that.
It's always those time seasons in the
Mm.
wilderness that cause us to
Yeah,
become
well, absolutely.
better versions of ourselves. The one thing I thought was where they crossed the streams the wrong way was mixing the Greek underworld with what they had been kind of inferring in the afterlife. Because whenever death would bring somebody into the afterlife, there was always the implication they're going to a nice place. Like, don't be afraid. It's all good, whether it's the old Jewish man or the black guy who dies in the drowning accident, or even Dream at the end, when she takes him. Um, and yet, when they do the underworld thing, it's like, oh wait, no. When people die, they go to this horrible hell like Hades place where this is horrific. Nobody would ever want to do that. So it's almost like they have two different realities in
Mm.
play here, and they never really explain that. Nor do they have time to do that. I get that, but I felt there was a crossing of the streams that kind of, well, not a major disruption, but it definitely something I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it comes down to what you believe in, right? Because there is a hell with Lucifer, and and that
Yeah.
we see at the beginning of season 2 that Lucifer decides that they've had enough, and they
Mhm.
they they abandon hell, right? And they give
Yeah.
Dream the key, and they say, okay, you have to find somebody else to rule
Yeah.
hell. But then there's also sort of the underworld, Hades,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
just depending on, I guess, which flume you go down, which
That's it.
which
That's
belief system
right.
you're part of. And I thought it was interesting that someone like Dream, an ethereal figure like Dream, can pass fairly effortlessly between these different realms because he
Yeah.
interacts with the Norse gods as well, doesn't he? And then
Yeah. Yeah.
and obviously can
And
travel through time however he feels and interact with fictional characters and real characters and all the rest of it. And I think that's I don't know. I think there are moments when you feel kind of humbled by your lack of knowledge. You feel like
mhm.
not well read enough, but I think there are other moments when you can just kind of not read too much into it and just like
Sure.
go with
Sure.
it. I think
Sure.
and it's a nice
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Acting wise, I loved I'm trying to think of the lady who's the was the companion to Peter Capaldi's doctor who plays Joanna forgot her name now.
Who plays Constantine? You mean
I'm sorry. Yes, Joanna Constantine.
Coleman? Someone Coleman?
Yes, Jenna
Her
Jenna
name is
Coleman. Jenna
Jenna
Coleman.
Coleman. Yeah.
Yeah. I just needed the little reminder because yeah, she was Peter Capaldi's companion.
Ah, okay. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
so many Doctor Who sort of tie-in strands, aren't there?
Yeah.
That I
Yeah,
would not know about.
she was wonderful, and I love the implied romance developing between her and the new Corinthian. I
Yeah,
loved the new Corinthian. He was funny, he was smart, he was engaging. You could do a whole spin-off series with Constantine and the Corinthian, just solving. You just let them go and do their thing. That would be a fantastic
definitely.
show.
Not teaming up with a serial killer.
I'm a serial killer?
You are not. This is an entirely different Corinthian.
So he doesn't murder people and eat their eyeballs.
Do I do that?
The Corinthian was never intended to be a reassuring dream.
Then you'll understand why I...
Definitely, I would be up for that. I mean, I mentioned that in my review that I wrote for the paper, just that there was sort of this burgeoning romance between those two
Yeah.
characters, and just like that was one of the highlights for me of this second
Yeah.
season. I mean, who knows? I mean, as I said, I haven't finished reading all of it, and certainly not all of the extra little overtures and preludes and postscripts that Gaiman continued to write afterwards. I don't think there is a spin-off detective show with those two, but then there is one though, isn't there? There's the spin-off series about are they called like the Dead End Kids or they're the
Oh.
two dead boys, schoolboys who are in the comic. And
I
then
haven't read the comics. I actually,
Okay.
when I was in the UK, I went into a comic store and I asked him if I could get Sandman #1, and said he was sold out, but he said he's pretty sure he might have one in store. He came in the back. It turned out it's a new author who is writing in the Sandman world, and so I got comic book 1 and 2 of this new world, but I haven't had a chance to read them yet.
Oh, okay, interesting.
No.
Quick Google the Dead Boy Detectives.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they are characters that are in the comic, and they're in like the second, or what would be season 2 if you're going to carry on. But they were taken out and they were spun off into their own show on Netflix that came out last year and was immediately cancelled after like one
Oh.
season. And I don't know if that's Gaiman related, maybe. It also, I think I watched. I don't know if I watched all of it. I watched a couple of episodes. And I was like, yeah.
No. Oh, yeah.
But the idea is that they're two sort of schoolboys from old sort of English public school, and but they're dead, they're ghosts, and they solve kind of like interdimensional crimes. It's a good idea, and
Yeah.
it might be worth having a look at. But so look at that. That's on Netflix. But
Oh, okay.
I didn't kind of get into it. But then I very easily don't get into that kind of show anyway. I mean, as you know, I don't
Right.
watch much TV, and I don't like
TV.
Doctor Who and things like that really, and it's just like this.
Oh,
No, I know.
yeah.
I know. So it was kind of I mean, truth be told, if the Sandman wasn't the Sandman, it was just a new show about this kind of thing, I probably wouldn't watch it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I
No,
understand.
I mean, and fair enough. But the last episode, both in the first season and in the second season, well,
Mm.
more so the second season, really shows you it's the world that is as important as the character itself. Because, I mean, since season 1, death has probably been the family member other than Dream that has had the most visibility.
Yeah.
And she's fun to watch. She's a wonderful actor. The way she engages death and personifies it, you want to watch her. I don't think that final episode was like the most wonderful thing I've seen. It was
No.
okay.
It was
It was
fine,
all right. It was fine. but she's great in it. I thought the story was stretched a little. It's like what's the quote in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings? Not enough butter stretched over too much bread. It's just
Okay.
there's just not enough there. It needed a little more meat in that sandwich. But the character
Mm.
is fun to watch, and also the is it Hobbs, the guy who's been granted
Yeah.
immortality.
Right.
Delightful character.
I like that.
Anytime he's in there, I just want to watch,
And I like his decision at the end that he's going to hang on for a little while, because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
begins where he's like, well, I have been around for about 1,000 years and I am getting pretty tired of it all and losing all your loved ones over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, do you want to end it? And he's like, no, because
Nah.
there are some good times too. And it's just, I think that's a really, it's a good uplifting, positive sort of anti-suicide kind of message.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like no, because there are good times too.
yeah.
You
Well,
do enjoy yourself even
that
if you get down.
that is a recurrent theme on this show because even in season one,
And
when
that
he's meeting it
final death
in that
episode.
final death episode, is that even when life shits, it's still pretty good.
Mm,
It's still like if you're willing to look at the glass half full, there's still a lot of good that's going on in the world. And so there's a message within Sandman 2 that I really resonate with. There is this optimistic look of good triumphing over evil that even despite the chaos when the powers and dominions come together to see who's going to get the key to hell,
yeah.
there's still a plumb line in there of good and lawful against the chaos and the unlawful. There's a sense that at the very top of this heap, although the Sandman world keeps everything at this level, it infers that the level gets much, much bigger if you want to keep going out. And that at that level, there's enough law and enough order to keep this chaos contained. And so there is this message that you can kind of read into the world that despite the chaos and the narcissism and the greed and the selfishness that we see kind of on daily display,
Mm.
there are forces at work outside of it that are helping keep things together. And you can kind of be part of that team. I mean, even when they bring in guys like Stephen Fry or the librarian, like the little core group, Patton Oswalt, the Raven.
I'm
I
surprised you
love
haven't mentioned Mark Hamill.
Hamill. You know why? Because you never really see his face. You just kind of got to know that it's Mark Hamill. Same with Patton Oswalt, as the
Mm.
Raven, which apparently Patton Oswalt was the very first person cast in the show.
That rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, any final thoughts on Sandman before we wrap it up?
Honestly, I hope something happens and they're able to do more of it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not one of those stories that's going to keep going. I'm not that interested in the further adventures of the new Dream or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Yeah.
But there is so much material still unmined,
Yeah.
back in those 75 issues or whatever, that I hope they find a way to sort of spin some of those off, even if that Tom Sturridge isn't in them, even if Dream isn't
Yeah.
featured. Just as you said, it's the world that makes it all so rich and interesting. And it's a story of stories at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And although the story has finished, those stories have yet to be told.
Ooh, that's a good note to end on. Well done, James. That's what we think about season 2 of The Sandman as well as season 1. Is there going to be a season 3? What do you think? And any other thoughts you have on this delightful series? We'd love to hear from you. James?
Yeah, and where do you stand on this thing? Is like, I don't want to get into like the weeds about Gaiman's accusations or whatever, but I think it does again bring up an interesting argument of the art. Can you separate the art from the artist? Should you? Can you? Do you? Let us know.
Till next episode. Bye-bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.